course, my Ray-Ban glasses. And indeed, I began to find out a little about what the admission requirements were. To aspire to be part of the corporation. Among them were, being Mexican. Palomita, having finished basic education. Palomita, not having a criminal record. Palomita, everything was going well, until I reached the minimum height requirement. And simply, that's where my dreams and aspirations of being a police officer ended, because I didn't meet that requirement. There is a specific profile for each position or vocation in life. In order to access these positions, we must demonstrate that we fit that profile. In a similar way, Scripture shows us that there is an expected profile in the disciples or followers of Christ. I cannot say that I am a disciple of Christ if I am not growing or advancing in these basic characteristics of those who follow Jesus. Therefore, this month we have been talking about those traits of the Christian character of the disciple of Christ. We have said that a disciple is faithful to the Lord, that a disciple is humble as Christ is. And today we add one more characteristic of disciples. A disciple is teachable, that is, with humility and docility, he is willing to learn more and more of the gospel of Christ. Leaving aside pride, personal vainglory, he is ready to incorporate into his life the truths of the gospel that are taught to him. And what's more, he seeks and longs to be taught in the grace of the Lord. Therefore, this day we tell all of us that we are disciples of Christ. Disciples are teachable because they long to be more like Jesus every day. This is an important characteristic of the disciple. He longs to learn more about Jesus to be more like him. The disciple shows a hunger to be taught, a willingness to follow instructions and submit to discipline. He shows humility, 849, to recognize that he does not know everything, or does not know everything with the depth with which he could know it and practice it. A disciple accepts correction and instruction with gratitude and humility. Have you tried to teach someone who doesn't want to be taught? I remember that, when I had just graduated from the Faculty of Education, I found a few substitute hours at a high school in the city. I didn't have a job, so any opportunity was good. It was a few weeks of substitution. But it was a real ordeal, because I was faced with a group of young people who did not show the slightest interest in learning the contents of the course. It became clear to me that to learn you first need to recognize your need for knowledge and want to fill that lack. How difficult it is to teach someone who does not want to learn. To those who do not humbly recognize their lack and show desire to make up for it. Today I tell my students in the seminary, you are here because you want to learn. I don't take roll, here comes the one who wants to learn. How different it is when students are there because they want to learn. It is a true joy to teach those who want to learn. In our growth in the gospel, this is how we must be teachable disciples. Because we long to learn more and more about Jesus. To reflect on this truth, we will consider a passage in the book of Acts 18, 24-28. In this passage we are introduced for the first time to a prominent character in the New Testament, who, although not much is known about him as we know about Paul or Peter, is mentioned several times in Scripture. It is about a Jewish man named Apollos. Acts 18, 24-25 RVC says, in those days a Jew from Alexandria, whose name was Apollos, arrived in Ephesus. He was very eloquent, and he had a solid knowledge of the Scriptures. Furthermore, he had been instructed in the way of the Lord, and with fervent spirit he spoke and taught accurately everything concerning the Lord. Here we are introduced to our character called Apollos, who makes it clear that he was Jewish and came from the city of Alexandria. Alexandria, Egypt, was a city of knowledge and culture of the time. A good number of Jews lived there, and it was not surprising that they were intellectual Jews. In other words, Apollos was not a man without letters, but a very cultured man. And then the passage goes